Hi there, I'm Sam Sorbo, and we are going to have a class on acting for you today. So, um, thank you to Daniel for asking me to do this. I'm kind of excited to share a bunch of things with you guys. Just by way of introduction, my name is Sam Sorbo, and I came to acting. I wanted to be an actress all through high school. I discovered acting early on. I really loved it. I was in a few plays in high school, but I was very tall. And so I was always taller than the leading men. So I never got the leading roles in the plays. And I was discouraged from pursuing acting all through high school because, nobody ever succeeds as actors. And I'll be perfectly honest. I believe that my drama teacher in high school she was a pretty young woman, and she had lived in New York. That was her claim to fame, was she had lived in New York and tried acting on Broadway, and she'd done some plays and whatever. And now she was teaching high school in Pittsburgh, which shows you how successful she was. And so she discouraged me even more because, let's face it, she thought she was hot stuff. And she didn't make it. And so she wasn't going to advise me to try to make it. She wasn't going to advise anybody to try to make it. And in fact, there was a girl who was, I think, 2 years ahead of me in school, and she also went on to have a big career in Hollywood from my high school. So I wasn't the only one. But it is difficult, let's face it, and it's particularly difficult if you have a Christian worldview, which you are not willing to compromise. And I would hope that the people listening to this and watching this would be of that persuasion. So the question would be, speaking to homeschoolers who clearly have a Christian worldview, and how to navigate pursuing a career in the arts with that worldview remaining intact, right? So Daniel's asked me to speak to both parents and students on homeschooling and learning the arts. And so to that end, I thought I'd start with studying classical literature, which is what I've done with my kids. And by the way, I'm raising two, if not three, but certainly two actors. Both my boys have decided to go into acting through no fault of my own, frankly. So we study Christian literature, and I decided to go grab this book because I thought this might be interesting to just examine for a few minutes. Heroes of the City of Man. This is a study of ancient literature. It's called A Christian Guide to Select Ancient Literature. And I've always liked the opening line. So I'm going to read this to you because it impressed me so much that I remember this book from years ago. Introduction. The devil has no stories. That just blew me away. The devil has no stories. And in fact, I've often said every film is a faith-based film. And so you have to be uncompromising in your worldview, because otherwise someone else's worldview will infect you and take over. And in this one, in this introduction, he starts by saying, "What has Athens to do with Jerusalem?" Tertullian exclaimed, and his question has echoed through the following centuries. Tertullian's own answer, quote, "not much," was not universally shared in the early church. So in other words, the early church thought that Christianity and Jerusalem ought to have a lot to do with Athens, and developed from Athens. Now, by Athens, they're talking about the pagan morality, which was very loose morality, the gods of mythology. And if you think about it, the gods of mythology were gods that were created by man, right? I mean, they believed that they had these gods, Zeus, and we can go through like a whole number of created gods, right? Zeus, Poseidon, Loki, Hermes. And by the way, all of these gods, Bacchus, they all had tremendous flaws. And their flaws were typically human flaws. So I don't know how they identified as gods, but they had human flaws. I don't know how that, squared in the ancient world. But the idea is that those gods represented humanity's sin. And so they were the excuse for sinful behavior. In other words, we know we're doing wrong, but we justify it by inventing a god and saying, oh, this is just the way I worship, or this is just, the God is making me do this. This isn't me acting out. I don't drink too much. I just worship Bacchus, the god of wine. And so that's an interesting thought, because of course the Christian God is sort of the opposite. The Christian God says, hey, stick to the straight and narrow. That's how you kind of know that we didn't invent him, because it's sort of not fun. I'm kidding. But when you stick to the Christian God, you end up finding true happiness. So the devil has no stories. So then what do we do? Well, we have to be careful with the stories we tell, or they'll be co-opted, right? Because that's how the devil gets stories. He perverts the real story. So you must learn ancient history. You should learn ancient dramas. You should learn Shakespeare. You should expose yourself to all kinds of storytelling, because ultimately, if you are an artist, you are a storyteller, which, by the way, was what Jesus Christ is, right? A storyteller. And why? Why did Jesus choose to speak in parables? Well, a couple reasons. They're timeless. And that's why the Bible still reads today and is effective for us today as it was when it first hit the scene, let's say. Secondly, they're effective. So they're still relevant, they're timeless, and they're effective. And they're effective at changing people's points of view. It's not enough to be told that you shouldn't do something, but you can be shown what to do through storytelling, or you can be shown not to do through storytelling. And that will be much more effective, because visually, even if it's just in your own imagination, it will take hold much more effectively. And so ultimately, if you want to be an actor, you are a storyteller. Now, I'll tell you the truth. When I initially wanted to be an actor, I thought, great, somebody's going to tell me. I was terribly insecure. So I thought, this will be great. Someone will tell me what to wear, what to say, how to be, where to go. And I won't have to make any decisions for myself, because I was very insecure and I always felt wrong. Fast forward to some very good acting classes, and I discovered that actually acting is not being someone else. Acting is being yourself, only more so. So it's an extremely vulnerable place to be when you're acting. And so there are a couple of sort of insights maybe that I can share on that. But I kind of want to go through because Daniel gave me a little bit of an outline of what he wanted me to cover. So we'll do that. So the art of acting, and why it's important for students to have a good foundation of a biblical worldview in the arts. There are a couple reasons that a biblical worldview, a firm foundation, is absolutely essential. And one of them is because the world will try to push you off balance. The world will try, and we see it today, we see it all over the place, right? If you are a young person on Instagram, you are being shown things, and you're being shown things. And if you're clever, you will figure out how to block those things so that you aren't being shown them. And the reason I say that is because there are certain things that you can't unsee, unfeel, unhear, undo, and they will stay with you. A quick story: I had a friend who was a stage actor, and he took a part in a play where he played a very bad, evil, angry character, and he played this part on stage 8 times a week. So that got to be, I mean, that's a grueling schedule, but I will tell you that he changed personality-wise during the production. Luckily, it only went on for 6 weeks, and so at the end of 6 weeks, he needed a bit of a decompression time, and then he was back to his old self. But during the time of the production, acting angry every day, he became much more short-tempered, much quicker to hostility, and it changed his personality. And so you have to be careful what you expose yourself to. Just as a general rule, you have to be careful. And certainly as an artist, you need to be careful, because especially in this medium attracts some odd people, and some people with no scruples, a lot of people with no scruples, actually, people with bad character, for instance. And so you have to be on your guard. And even, I will say, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but even in the Christian film environment, some of the behavior of people who consider themselves to be Christians, I find extraordinarily questionable. I'll just say. So there's no sort of safe place in this. You need to know who you are before you get involved, or you will very quickly lose yourself, possibly, most likely, I will say. So that's why a strong biblical worldview is important. And the best way to get that is to read your Bible every day and understand that it is the guidebook for life, and you can turn to it for answers. And it's the only book that you don't read, it reads you, right? So, all right. So enough on that. Now, practical suggestions to the parent and the student about how a homeschooler might get into the industry as an actor. So the most practical advice that I can give people, and I do, in fact, I just recently spoke at Liberty University School of Cinematic Arts, and that is a very fine school. If you feel like a college degree is necessary, that isn't, I would say, probably one of the best schools you could go to as a Christian. I would definitely not advise you to go to a non-Christian school for cinematic arts. I just think you're just going to expose yourself to way too much. You will have way too much at stake. You're going to spend far too much money for it to be worthwhile. It's far too dangerous to cost that much, or something like that. So that's my best advice there. That said, nobody in Hollywood or even out of Hollywood asks you where you graduated from. That's just not even, it's just not a question. So while I'm not going to diss Liberty University or other Christian colleges that perhaps have film programs, there's a great one. Is it Ashbury? No. Great one outside of, I think it's in Ohio, across the border from Lexington, Kentucky, somewhere there. There's another good one. Seems to have a strong Christian worldview. And it's a great place. Look, School of Cinematic Arts or a film school is a great place to get acquainted with equipment and learn. There's some sort of on-the-job training that happens there. That said, I highly recommend on-the-job training. And part of that is because you don't really know what you want to do. So if you get a job and earn money, even just a little bit of money, and you get exposure to the various roles that you might be able to go into in and around filmmaking, you'll be better off. Certainly for actors, I don't see much point in going to some fancy pants school. I do see value in taking acting lessons. And that is a minefield. That's a minefield, because good acting teachers are few and far between. They do exist. Good acting teachers with a Christian worldview, fewer, farther between. I'm sure they exist. But acting class is a very useful thing. And the reason that I say that is because as an actor, you have to be willing to make yourself vulnerable. Like I said, acting is being yourself, only more so. And by the way, I don't deal with method acting. I think method acting is typically, it's very self-indulgent, self-centered, and it's called acting for a reason. And method is like, I know there are some very fine method actors, but by and large, they're very self-serving and self-indulgent children. So something like that, something along those lines. Acting is a craft, and it needs to be practiced in order to get good at it. And I know when you start acting, you think you're great, and that's fine. But if you don't have a technique, then that one day on set where you have to bring it, and you've got to bring the performance. If you don't have technique to rely on, you most likely will fail, because it is very difficult to be vulnerable on cue in front of cameras without messing up lighting, dialogue, whatever, right? So that takes honing and crafting your technique, and acting class is where you hone and craft your technique. Now, what's amazing is with the new technology, the way that I'm recording this video, for instance, you can get a green screen and you can do scenes with people from around the country on Zoom and actually get experience. And it's even camera experience, which is even better, because there is something called camera experience. And if you don't have camera experience, it shows. It's just this thing where when a camera is pointed at you, it's like a presence in the room. And so you have to get used to that, and you have to get used to being with that presence, but still being yourself and being normal and all of that. So there are a couple of pieces of advice that I can give you. Try to find people who are busy making film. If you're an actor, this is for if you're an actor. If you're not an actor, start making film. Even if you are an actor, start making films. Write some scripts. Get some actors, including yourself, say. Maybe get somebody to direct it, or direct it yourself. I know a lot of actors who direct themselves, direct productions themselves. And in fact, I've directed, my husband directs, he directed our movie there, and also starred in it. It's not rocket science. It's not that difficult to do, but you need some good people around you to tell you where you might be going wrong, that kind of a thing. So try to surround yourself with talented people you admire and respect, and start creating. The more you create, the better you'll get at creating. That's just it's just a numbers game at that point, basically. And so that's really, and the reason that I say this is because right now, this is like the greatest, this camera is fantastic. And this is only a 12. It's not even like up to date. You can make some really great cinematography and do some really fun things. And with YouTube, you can get that stuff out there and show the world. And so you have the opportunity to basically make an audition reel and put it out there. Now, I don't know how you're going to get people to see it. You're going to have to figure out how to get people to see it, but you're halfway there, right? So getting into the industry is challenging, but there are groups on Facebook. I think there are Christian talent agencies that are in various places, and now everybody lives all over the place. So like my sons got, through friends of friends or people that they met, they got agents in Dallas and in Atlanta and now in LA. And they're doing auditions here in Florida for projects that shoot wherever. So it can be done. They obviously have a step up because they have a name. They've got experience. They started early on. And they took acting classes. And I will tell you that before they took acting classes, I didn't give them 2 cents for their acting. I didn't think they could act their way out of a paper bag. And then after they took acting classes, I auditioned them for our movie, Let There Be Light, which by and large was written for them, even though I didn't realize it at the time. And I auditioned them and they were both excellent. And I said, well, I don't see how I can't cast them for Let There Be Light. So, and that said, they still take acting classes because the classes are exercising your instrument, say, for, lack of better terminology, those are the technical terms, your body, your voice, your body is your instrument, and you have to exercise it. You have to practice, just like you can't just pick up the flute and start playing the flute or the violin. You have to practice. You have to practice a lot to get good at it. And I know that a lot of young actors just feel like they're really good at acting. And some of them are, but there's a lot of thought that has to go into the behind the scenes. So to that end, we're almost, yes. Okay. To that end, I thought I'd talk a little bit about how acting works, the mechanics of acting. So I subscribe to the theory that every scene is either a power scene or a love scene. And so to that end, you analyze the scene. And this is the technique part of it. So you break down the scene. You know what? I'm going to get a scene I'm going to go get an audition scene so that we can break it down a little bit. Okay, we're back. So in this case, and by the way, quick costume change, the magic of television. Okay, so I have a scene here between Bobby, Cindy, and Tammy. It's based on an audition that my son just got. So Bobby is a male role, and I'm going to just analyze it because that's just as easy to do for men or for male or female roles. Like I said, every scene is either a power scene or a love scene. And so once you read through here, you can choose either for any character. It seems like the obvious choice for this character is that this is a power scene. Those tend to be a lot of fun because you can be as ruthless as you want. Because when a character is all about power, they are ruthless. They will bulldoze over anything to get their way. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be ruthless. It doesn't mean you have to appear ruthless. It just means that the choices that you make throughout the scene should not take into consideration necessarily how other people will perceive you. And this is a very difficult thing for a lot of actors to sort of wrap their head around, is the idea that people might not like them. And so they will make choices to sort of broadcast, this is the character talking, this isn't me personally. That is very dangerous. If you're going to be an actor, it needs to be you. You need to be able to identify inside yourself where you are ruthless and go ahead and use that in the scene. In fact, it's very, it can be very beneficial to do that and act out your ruthlessness, if you will, in the scenes instead of actually taking it out on people in the real world. Am I giving away too much? Okay. So we're going to go through here, and I haven't analyzed this scene for myself yet because I figure it's more beneficial if I do it with you and give you a little bit of my train of thought. I've read through the scene. It's very clearly to me a power scene. So playing Bobby, I'm going to try to get power. Now, how does somebody get power? There are lots of different ways of exerting influence over other people. I have decided that Bobby in the beginning of this scene is charming because every line that a character delivers, basically he wants it to be the last thing said. So the assumption is, and this is hard to do, the assumption is I'm going to say this line, end of scene. We're going to be done. It's hard to do that because you've read the scene, so you know there's more coming. But you have to pretend, I mean, this is part of the acting, you have to pretend you're going to say this thing, and that's going to be the end of it. And then everything will be done. Like you're going to get your way. Because that's how you fight for what you want. That's how you fight for what you're getting in the scene. So Bobby comes in, if you'll just read along, he comes in, they're in the hospital room, and he says, "Hey, Sin, how you feeling?" "Well, that's just charming." "How you feeling?" Obviously, it's not the end of the scene, but he's gonna give her the news, and he's gonna skedaddle because he really doesn't want to be here with her. He really doesn't want to have to exert his power. He just wants to take his power and leave the room. So, "Hey, Sin, how you feeling?" That is just friendly and pretending, in any case, to care about her, right? But in a power scene, you don't care about the other characters as much as want them to behave the way you want them to behave. So she answers, "I'm tired, but I'll be fine. They're keeping me here for another day for observation," whatever that means. And Tammy feels the need to then explain that because she's got a concussion because she was in the car when they had the car accident. Well, they both were, right? And then Tammy tries to make a joke. "Oh, that's okay. The hospital food does wonders for your diet." Cindy is not amused by that, and Bobby doesn't care. Bobby is very dismissive throughout the whole scene, basically very dismissive of Tammy because he really needs Cindy, the one to be the one that plays along. He's not concerned with Tammy. Tammy gets along with everybody. She just goes along to get along, is the way that I've analyzed this scene, okay? And there isn't a script. This is just a scene. So I'm making some of this stuff up, but I'm giving you the justification for the reasons that I'm making the choices that I'm making. Every line comes with a choice, and it helps when you're analyzing the scene to have those choices made. That does not mean that you memorize the way you say the line, but it gives you an indication of how you're going to say the line because of your motivations and where you want the scene to go. Okay, so he's coming in charming enough, just wanting to say his piece and get out of the room, and he just says, "Well, I came to tell you not to worry. My dad's going to take care of everything." Right? So little bit charming, maybe a wink in the eye, maybe just, "Hey, I just came to tell you not to worry, okay? My dad's going to take care of everything," right? Maybe he uses a soft voice. He's trying to charm her and get her to agree, then he can leave. Do you understand? So the choice to me, the choice wouldn't be, "Well, I came here to tell you not to worry. My dad's going to take care of everything." Like the choice is not confrontational. The choice isn't because I don't see that as being a positive choice. He doesn't want confrontation. Why would he start the confrontation? But she then starts the confrontation. And so it's easy for an actor to slip into, "Well, she's going to be confrontational. I'll just preempt her." But I don't think that that's the successful choice here. So she looks at him and says, "How can you say that?" So she is the one that's bringing the confrontation. She's the one that's bringing the questioning to him. And he does not want that. So what does he do? Well, he has a couple of choices. His line is he's going to fix it. He can simply mean the line. That's typically a weak choice, to simply mean what the words say, because the words are going to say it anyway. So stronger choices in scenes come from choosing to project something that's beneath the words. And so the words are, he's going to fix it. But Bobby wants to say, don't make a big deal out of this. Right? Or let's see. Don't be an idiot. He's going to fix it. Right? So that's a little confrontational. Maybe I just was a little bit too confrontational. He's going to fix it. Right? Or he's going to fix it. Reassuring. He's going to fix it. Okay. So those are all different choices that I can make. And what I would do is on the side of the page here, I would put either reassuring, I might draw a picture. What I find is that on the page, I like to put notes because my notes then I have a bit of a picture memory, and my notes guide me through the scene in my memory. Because every page basically looks very similar, right? So my notes sort of guide me through the scene, and they spark my memory to remember lines and things like that. So I will put notes or little drawings or commentary. I might circle a word, like if I want to stress fix it, he's going to fix it. Then I'll circle the word because it differentiates this line from all the other lines, and it makes it just easier for me to memorize. And then Cindy challenges him on that and says, you can't fix this, Bobby. Now she has lots of choices. She can say it that way. She can say it, you can't fix this, Bobby. She can say it with disgust. She can say it with abandonment, like you can't fix this, Bobby. Like it's all lost, right? That's entirely her choice. I'm not here to analyze her part, but I'm just giving you a little bit of insight. And that will help. So that will then inform you as the actor playing opposite Cindy. It can help inform you, but you can take or leave it, because ultimately they shoot you and they shoot her. Typically they'll shoot them separately, and then they'll just edit it the way that you can do so much for a performance in editing. I'm just saying. So your job as the actor is to show up and do the very best performance that you can, and not worry about the other actors and how they're performing. Okay. And so she says that Tammy wants to calm everybody down. He's a lawyer, Sin, a good one. And this is where Bobby gets a little bit on the offense. Okay. And you see him start to take control of the scene because he's not getting cooperation from Cindy, which is all he wants. He wants her to cooperate with his plan to make this big problem go away. Now, obviously, I'm not making any commentary on the morality of the characters. And we often, as actors, we have to portray people with maybe lesser morals than other people. I mean, goodness knows, in this movie that's just opened in Miracle in East Texas, my husband plays a complete scoundrel. So does John Ratzenberger. So, you know, but that is a way of showing, yes, evil exists in the world. And so, you know, as Christians, we obviously know that that's true. And Bobby is, by the way, he's a very well-written character here, but he's not, he is, you know, barely redeemable at this point because he's kind of evil. So he comes in after Tammy's line, but he's correcting them. And so there are a couple different ways you can play this. He could play it haughty. He could play just, you know, hey, you know, pay attention. He's got a couple different choices that he can make. And so he says an expensive one. Plus, he knows everyone, okay? They literally can fix anything. No worries. Leave it alone. Just go with the flow, my flow, where I'm going. Just come along for the ride. I will take care of everything, right? So that's the choice that I see there. He could laugh at them. He's a lawyer, Sin, a good one, an expensive one. Plus, he literally knows everyone. They literally can fix anything. No worries, right? So you can play it different ways, and that's where the technique comes in. Because what you need to do in a scene like this is you need to load, we call it loading the scene, with your personal details. So what is it that you, and it's not something that you're embarrassed about. Bobby clearly isn't embarrassed by this. He just wants his big problem to go away. So what problem do you have in your life that you just want to go away? And then you load that into the scene. So often when I make notes, I might actually make a note of the problem that I have, and it's got to be current, that I want them to forget about. Okay. So I can't think of one right now. I wouldn't share it with you anyway, but you need to share it with yourself, because that's how you get the real stuff that we call it cover. So when you load in to the scene, the thing that's really important to you, and then you play the scene, you cover You cover the thing that's just beneath the surface. You cover it, but the camera sees it. And that's the magic of cinema. The camera sees it. And that's what differentiates a good actor from a bad one, a great actor from a good one. Good actors can play at anything. Great actors are actually experiencing it, and the camera can capture that. Does that make sense? So he's correcting them, an expensive one. Plus, he knows everyone. They literally can make anything, can fix anything. No worries, okay? Like, no worries. And Cindy is traumatized, so she has to push it. A kid died, Bobby. You can't fix that. She's dead serious. She's saying, Bobby, this is not going away. And she's also, we've made her head injured in the hospital, so she's really struggling, right? And that gets him worried. That's where the scene shifts and he gets a little bit more ruthless, okay? And so you make these choices, you analyze the scene, then you go. It's important when you're analyzing the scene to figure out where you can go, how far you can stretch during the scene. Because if you play the same beat over and over, if I played this entire scene just like aloof and cajoling, charming and aloof, it gets boring. It gets boring. Why didn't I win right away? Why didn't I win right away? If aloof and charming were going to win the scene, then the scene would be half a page long. And by the way, if that happens and you don't go anywhere further in the scene and basically the other actors don't, then what happens is the scene gets cut. It maybe gets cut after the third line. That's okay. The hospital food does wonders for your diet. Cut. Because if he just comes in and says, how you doing? And she says, I'm tired. Everything's fine. And he's satisfied that everything's fine, right? Then there's nowhere to go. There's no drama. But he's not. So he came to tell you, my dad's going to take care of everything. And then we have a confrontation. It's written in the scene, so it's there. But you do have to, as an actor, you want to give a spectrum of emotions. Not in every single scene, not, all the way until you're exhausted, perhaps, but you look for opportunity. You should always look for opportunity to do the unexpected, because that's what makes it exciting. That's what makes you watchable as an actor. Okay. So his answer to somebody died is he's going to defer. He does not want to be blamed for this. So he cuts her off. And there's a trick to cutting somebody off. You don't actually, if you're in close-ups, you don't actually cut over their line because they have a hard time editing that on sound, but you can still pretend that you're cutting someone off. And then they fix it when they're editing so that it sounds good. I know. And it really sucks. And I'm sorry, really. But why should our lives be over too, right? Like, aren't you with me on this? Like, come on. And he can show a little bit of anger. And if you've loaded something into the scene that's really important, it's going to come out. I know, and it sucks. And I'm sorry, really, but why should our lives be over too, right? Come on. And then Cindy says, well, it was our fault. And Tammy looks at Bobby and she's just like, are you kidding me right now? Like, you can't be trying to push this over on Cindy because we all know Cindy and she's not going to go for it, kind of thing. That's why he's there, right? This is how we discover a little bit about the characters. I'm making leaps, but these are leaps that they're totally legal. You can make all the leaps you want in the scene, especially if you don't have the full script, and it helps the scene. Sometimes people are afraid to make these leaps because they're like, well, I don't know if that's true. But what happens is it colors your acting to the point where you become interesting to the producers. Even if you make the wrong leap, it might be more interesting that way than if you made no leap and you were, fairly flat through the whole scene. Does that make sense? You want to make unpredictable, interesting choices. then you're interesting to the producers. So, are you kidding right now? And Bobby ignores Tammy. He can even like do this to her. Like, hey, it's like you think this happened on purpose. Right? So that choice that I just made, I could have escalated it. And that's also a valid choice. This is a choice that you make during filming, but you can also make some of the choice beforehand and you might change it during filming. But a choice has to be made. So I just made the choice to be a little bit more threatening, a little bit more intimate, but I could just as easily have gone the other way. Are you kidding right now? It's like you think this happened on purpose. It was an accident, a freakish accident. And what the heck was he doing out there that late? Anyway, I mean, was he on drugs? Right? So that's the more forceful choice. But I could also say, okay, I'm going to get really intimate with her. I'm going to get up in her face. I'm right. And when you show up on set, you may show up perfectly legal for you to show up with ideas on blocking. And you can always make choices. Okay. Now they might say, you can't go there. We didn't light for that. You can't move there because you're out of frame. Like they can, right? So that's where your technique comes in, because there will be constraints placed on you when you're acting over which you have no control. Okay. And so you're going to make choices and then you're going to have to revise them because you can't make that choice or whatever. But depending on the scene, I might choose either the intimate one or the forceful one. Like, let's see, the defensive one, right? So the second one was more defensive. The first one was like, it's like you think this happened on purpose. It was an accident, a freakish accident. And I mean, what was he doing out there that late anyway? Was he on drugs? Maybe I choose to turn to Tammy. I mean, was he on drugs? Right? And deflect. Maybe I want to bring her in. Maybe now I'm thinking, oh, I shouldn't alienate her. I need her on my side. And Tammy comes in. So it was an accident, but we can't pretend. Now, I don't want to hear that. Again, I'm going to ignore Tammy and go to Cindy, the way it's written. I do not have to cut her off just because she has an ellipses, the 3 dots there. I don't have to cut her off. And by the way, if I do cut her off, they can put a pause in, or if I don't cut her off, they can make me cut her off in editing. Okay. There's a lot that happens in editing. So I can wait. She can say, so it was an accident, but we can't pretend. And I can let her just sort of hang herself with that line. And that's totally legal. Or I can cut her off. That's a choice. Sin. Like, so my choice now is I'm gonna lay down the law for her right now. And this is a little bit of a threat, but I need to win. And that's what power people do in a scene. They do whatever it takes to win. So, sin. You want to go to that college that you're always talking up? Because if this goes any further, that's off the table. Right? Or I can go, sin. You want to go to that college you're always talking up? Because this goes further, it's off the table. Right? I have to mean it, but I can throw it in her face. Sin. You want to go to that college you're always talking about? Because if this goes any further, that's off the table. Right? So you just make the choice of how he, Bobby, and that means you, how you're going to try to get her on your team. And maybe that's less effective than the intimate one. Maybe the intimate one is less effective than the forceful one. And she comes back with, what about the boy we had? What about his plans? You tell me. Do you even know his name? Right? So now I'm almost making fun of her. I'm like, don't be an idiot. But I could choose to do it differently. I could I could do it like, well, you tell me. Do you even know his name? Like, I could be really caring with that line, or I could be, ridiculing. Do you even know his name? Get a load of this, Tammy. Do you know what I mean? So it's about loading in your parameters, loading in the things that are important to you into a scene, and then fighting for them. And if you write them down on the page so you remember them, that will keep them there. You can bring things into the scene with you. Maybe this pen is very meaningful to me, and I'm just holding it. Maybe I click a pen. Maybe that's part of my character, is I carry a pen and I click a pen. Maybe, maybe I put it on my ear or something silly. That might be too silly, right? So you try different things and you decide if that works or if it doesn't work. Okay. So you tell me, do you even know his name? And then she doesn't have an answer. Right. Quit the self-righteous act, Cindy. You were there too. Now that's where I get a little nasty. I can choose to be nasty, or I can pretend that I'm not being nasty. Right. Quit the self-righteous act, Cindy. You were there too. Maybe I'm sad for her. You were there too. Right? It's still menacing. The line is menacing. I don't have to be menacing. You were there too. I don't have to be menacing because the line is menacing. So even if I say it the nicest possible way, it even makes it more menacing. That's the beauty, right? Let the lines be themselves. You say them any way you want. Right. Quit the self-righteous act, Cindy. You were there too. I mean, that's terrible. That's so mean right there. I feel really mean now. She says I wasn't driving. Don't don't try to put this on me. We were all having a good time. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not going to let you go there. Right? And it says here, Bobby controls his temper, feeling the blame. Now, what do you do with a stage direction like that? Ignore it. Big trick here. Stage directions are for people who read scripts. They're not really for actors. Now, it depends. Maybe you've got the writer director who is so in love with his words that he comes up to you and says, hey, I really want to see that you feel the blame here. Okay, then you're stuck. Then you have to do the stage direction. But by and large, stage directions are meant to guide you through the scene so that you see sort of what's happening, but they're suggestions. They're not imperatives. So Bobby controls his temper, feeling the blame. Hey, don't even. Just let my dad deal with this. We're lucky he's a lawyer, unless you want to empty your mom's bank account. In other words, now I'm putting it to her. She doesn't have any money. She's got no way out unless she lets me handle it through my dad, right? So that's the choice there. There are other choices. Don't even. Just let my dad handle this, okay? We're lucky he's a lawyer, unless you want to empty your mom's bank account. Okay, so if I load into the scene enough, maybe that's where it takes me. Maybe that's how frustrated I get with her. It's possible, right? And then Tammy steps in and goes, whoa, Bobby, can I, let's step outside for a minute. And that's where I lose the friendliness, basically. And I just say to her, talk some sense into her. Talk some sense into her, Tams, before she ends us all in prison instead of going to college. Right? You get this. I couldn't get it done, so you get it done. Get it done now. You see? And if I load in the thing that's that important to me, I will feel terrible at the end of the scene because I did not win. And we all like to win. And that's what acting is. Most of the scenes you can't win, because otherwise there's no drama. If I won this scene, then the movie's over. And it's not the end of the movie yet. So I can't quite win. There's more drama to come. I hope that explains a little bit about scene analysis for you, and working it out. Of course, you have to memorize. That's also where notes on the page come in. You can also record. You record everyone else's lines, and you read silently to yourself your lines, and then you can play that back and say your lines in the moments of silence that you've allowed for yourself. Yeah, I think that'll do it for me. Thank you so much for listening. I would take questions, but this is not live, so I can't take questions. But if you go to sorbostudios.com and you have questions, feel free to email me there. Also, you can check out everything that we have going on. And no, we are not casting currently, so please do not email me resumes or projects, because we are in a fundraising period right now. We're looking for funds. If you want to give me money to produce a movie, I'll take it happily. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for joining me. Okay, so let's talk just briefly about how this would be a love scene. And I'm going to go to the Cindy character. So we have a character here who is in a hospital bed. And let's just say that her choice is that this is a love scene, and all she wants is love. So I'm going to show you how we break that down. By the way, one of the best actresses for this kind of thing is Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe, I think every scene that she ever played was a love scene. In other words, she just wanted love. She would do anything to feel loved. And I think it's pretty clear. I mean, sad how her life ended was pretty much a testimony to the fact that she just wanted love. She just wanted love, always, always. And so if you watch movies with her and you watch with that sort of filter, you'll see the things that she does to get you to love her. So let's just say Cindy now is craving love in this scene. And for her, it's not a power scene. And she's going to lose because Bobby doesn't want to give her love. He wants power over her, you see? And so now, if those are the choices, you've already set up drama, because drama is conflict. And without the conflict, there's no drama. So if you play the scene that you're given with very little conflict, it's going to be boring and people will turn it off. But if you build conflict in, which you can do through your acting, through your dialogue, it will be much more compelling, even if it's not even well written, because you can make a phrase, a sentence mean anything really in the way that you say it. How you doing means one thing. How you doing means something completely different. How you doing means something completely different. Do you see what I'm saying? I'm saying the same phrase, but I'm saying it differently with a different intention. And so that's what we're going to do here. We're going to look at Cindy's lines. So Bobby comes in. Hey, Cin, how you feeling? And she wants love. So what is she going to do? She's going to give a stiff upper lip because she wants people to love her for being strong. I'm tired, but I'll be fine. They're keeping me here for another day for observation, whatever that means. Right? I'm a strong person. Love me. Okay. Then Bobby says, well, I came to tell you not to worry. My dad's going to take care of everything. Now, Cindy is feeling guilt for the car accident. What is Sam, the actress, feeling guilt for? That's for me to know, not for you to find out. But what I need to do in this scene is I need to build in the thing that I feel bad about, that I'm trying to get love despite. Does that make sense? So for me, it's a love scene. I want these people to love me. And by the way, I'm substituting in people for Bobby and Tammy, people in my life from whom I need love. I'm putting other people's faces on their faces, if you will, in my imagination. Acting takes a lot of imagination. It takes a powerful imagination. That's why you need to get into classes and work it and practice it, because it's difficult to do. It's challenging to do that, and to do it on cue, to do it on call, right? It's you can maybe do it here or there, or, you know, if you're in the mood, but the days that you're not in the mood, those are the days that you find yourself on set and you got to deal with it. Right. So, my dad's going to take care of everything. Cindy is astonished. Now, I don't have to play that I'm astonished. That's the stage direction. I can just look at him and I can be upset. And I want him to love me despite this big problem that we have. And I'm not saying that I want to be his girlfriend. That's not what I mean by love. I just mean I want people to love me. We all want love. As human beings, we all want love. Okay. So that's the kind of love that I'm talking about. So my dad's going to take care of everything. How can you say that? This is a terrible thing that's happened. And I want him to make it better. I want him to fix it. But getting his dad to fix it doesn't fix it for me, right? That's my choice. He's going to fix it. You know? You can't fix this body. Right? I can make that choice. Or I can go on the offensive because I want him to love me, darn it, now. You can't fix this, Bobby. Maybe I don't even want love from him. Maybe I'm performing for Tammy. Maybe I want Tammy to love me. Maybe I want Tammy to respect me. You see what I'm saying? Maybe I need to make him feel bad so that I can love myself again. Maybe that's the love I'm looking for. So those are all choices that me as an actor will be making when I do a scene like this. And Bobby corrects them about the lawyer. No worries. A kid died, Bobby. You can't fix that. Like, now I'm disgusted with him. Okay. Or I'm just horrified. A kid died, Bobby. You can't fix that. Right. And I'm getting emotional because this is a terrible, terrible thing. And he doesn't seem to care. And I care because I want people to love me. Does that make sense? Now, I could have chosen to make this a power scene. And and it might look almost the same. Because crying in a power scene, absolutely. Especially for a woman. Tears are a great power play. Does that make sense? So, and then he cuts her off and he says, hey, why should our lives be over too? It was our fault. Right? So that's a choice. It was our fault. That's a different choice. And so what I really want to compel you in, and it's hard to do this, you know, through technology and everything. It's a little bit difficult. I hope that you're getting something from this. Is you can make any number of choices. And to me, it is important that the choices be organic, connected to things that are happening in your life or that have happened in your life that you're relating back to personally on a personal level, because that's what the camera sees. Now, the camera is completely different than the stage. Film is an entirely different medium than stage. On the stage, you have to be bigger because the audience is out there. On film, you can't be big because the audience is right here. So you have to be intimate. And it's difficult to create that intimacy on the stage because you have to be big, you have to project. So there is a difference. And I'm speaking predominantly about film acting. You can take these tips or whatever, and you can convert them for the stage. You just have to be bigger. And so it's not going to be as intimate. So, okay. Let's see, we can go to the next line. And Bobby's getting a little bit more aggressive, because if this goes any further, that's off the table. But I'm still fretting, and he's not giving me what I want. I want him really, like, maybe I make his goal, I want him to cry. Now, it's hard to make that the goal in the scene, because the way the scene's written, he doesn't cry. But that doesn't mean I can't make him cry. When I shot Let There Be Light, and I shot a scene with, it was Travis Tritt playing the doctor. It wasn't written that Travis Tritt was going to cry, but it became my goal to be so pathetic and so, I'm in the hospital bed and I'm thinking of no one but myself. My character's written so altruistic or whatever, that it became my goal, my personal goal, to make him cry, which helped me in the scene, because I was doing things that were pathetic and should make him cry. And I almost got him on the last take. It was pretty funny. So you can do that. That's part of the fun of acting is messing around with your emotions. That is acting, really, and seeing how you affect other people. And that's why we become actors, is to change the world and make it a better place, to tell stories that change the world. Movies that move you is what I like to say. So she finally says, what about the boy we hit? What about his life? I'm trying to make him feel guilty. Do you I'm like questioning, like, what kind of ogre are you? I'm putting him on the spot. Now, if I do that, it serves the scene, because he gets more anxious and more aggressive. So it actually serves the scene. I don't have to serve the scene. I can just serve myself. I can just, I keep hitting my microphone. I can be like, what about the boy we hit? What about his plans? Right? So now it's all about me. Now I've just made the whole thing about me. And boy, is he going to look callous when he says, "You tell me, do you even know his name?" He's going to look so callous. And maybe when he does that, I know it says here that she is silenced, but maybe I burst into tears. Maybe that's the way I win. Right? I mean, this is the fun of acting. Maybe that's how I win. Even though ultimately I don't win, because I don't get the love necessarily, but maybe I get the love from Tammy when I burst into tears. So maybe I do win. Maybe I can arrange the scene so that I win, right? And if I put something at stake that's meaningful for me, then when I win, I will feel good, even though I'm crying my eyes out. And if I lose, I will feel bad, even though it's a win for the scene, even though it serves the scene. Does that make sense? So, and then I have this fantastic line. Maybe I'm crying already. And he says, right, quit the self-righteous act, Cindy. You were there too. And then I turn, right? So I'm crying. I'm on the bed in the hospital room. And I'm just, we've killed this boy, and I'm sobbing and whatever. And he says, you were there too. And I just look at him. I wasn't trying. And he's going to pay. Right? And that scares him, maybe. Because maybe you see, oh, underneath it, I'm not a wreck. I'm actually, large and in charge somehow. Or maybe not. Maybe not. It depends on how the scene goes. I mean, obviously I wasn't sobbing the way I set it up and stuff. So it's not the easiest thing to do to teach this. So bear with me. Or maybe, I am silenced. I'm not crying. Do you even know his name? You know, I feel terrible. I'm a terrible person. And he says, you were there too. I wasn't driving. You know, you can't blame me. You can't put this on me. I wasn't driving. You know, maybe I don't even look at him, right? So these are all the choices that actors make when they are preparing a scene. Now, what happens? We do these different choices. We run through the scene in various different ways. One thing that I want to caution you against, and there are actors that do that, they memorize their lines a certain way and they only say them a certain way. And that's the way they say them. So they memorize, hey, Sin, how you feeling? And they can't change it because that's the way they memorize the line, and they are always going to say it that way. Hey, Sin, how you feeling? Don't do that, please. Because what happens is you lose any organic, anything that happens in the scene. And if you lose all the organic elements of the scene, then the drama goes out because you've read the script and you've memorized how you're saying your lines. And so basically you become one of those actors that just waits for the other person to say their line so that you can say your line. And I've worked with people like that. I did a movie with a guy who acted like that, and we called him the flycatcher because he never reacted to anything that I said on camera until at the end of the scene, the director yelled cut, and he would then give a reaction at the end of the scene. The entire scene was him. I'm saying my line now. I'm saying another line now. All right, this is my last line. Cut. And he would give like a reaction. Whatever, some reaction. And I was in the editing facility, and we would go to the ends of the scenes and take those reactions and put them into the scene so that it looked like he was reacting to things that I was saying. So don't be that actor. Be an actor who is present in the moment, who has done his homework and built into the scene the things that he wants to know and feel and get from the other actors, the things that he's fighting for, either love or power, the techniques that he uses to get power or love, and be that actor, because then you can be present and you can make discovery. One of the greatest parts of acting is when you can make a discovery during a scene. When you have discovery during a scene, it's one of the greatest sensations. And it's so much fun. So there you go. I hope that this has been enjoyable for you. And I want to thank you very much for tuning in and coming to class. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out at sorbostudios.com. Take care.